War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we sit down, we get together, and we talk about what's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. We're always heavy on the sports here on this channel, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay, or joining us via Facebook or Twitter. We'll take you however we can get you. Thank you so much for just spending just even a few minutes of your time to hang out with us and talk about what we love about being part of the Auburn family. On tonight's live stream, if you're watching live, we're going to be talking mainly about week 4. Yes, week 4 of Auburn men's basketball, with games against UCF and a game against Yale, both of which were wins for the Tiger. We'll talk rankings, implications, whether they matter. What does this mean for the Auburn team? Maybe even something surrounding the SEC basketball. Big things have happened in that sense as well. So we can discuss anything as it pertains to Auburn men's basketball tonight, and any of that's on the table. I know there's a lot of you that have interest in discussing about some of the things out there for football wise that are very pertinent right now. I'm not going to do a lot of that discussion tonight, although as things tend to happen on these live streams, sometimes breaking news happens. It used to be the old story was that when we went live, news broke. So who knows at this point? We may have something break here on this channel. I don't know, but we'll just keep talking about Auburn men's basketball here at the start of things. Couple of things we can do to get started tonight. If you're watching live and even on the replay, make sure you smash that like button. If you enjoy this type of content, it does help spread it out to other Auburn fans. You can even share it out on Facebook group, Twitter, all that good stuff. Post right now in the comments section where you're watching from. City, state, international, with a War Eagle. Let me know who's here. I'd love to hear from you all. When the headphones are on, that means somebody can call in. Tonight, though, it is not open call-ins, as we've been doing for the last couple of months. Monday nights are exclusive for our Booster Club members, but I'm also allowing E2C Network contributors. I see some of you in there already. If they'd like to call in, you all have been sent the correct link. If it doesn't work, let me know. We'll try again. And you can call in, say hello, and talk with me for a few minutes about Auburn men's basketball if you would like. With that being said, let me talk about a few people who are already in the chat. Kevin Kelly, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Russell Shoemaker, War Eagle for E2C. Katie Johnson is the man, the Energizer Bunny for the team, and an important piece to an extremely talented roster. Walk-ons even look good. Just Bari Smith is special. That's like the understatement of the year. Yeah, it just seems like the entire team is firing on all cylinders in terms of the way that they're heading. Have they arrived as a team? No. As our friends on the Inside the Jungle podcast, that they're our basketball podcast here on the E2C Network, have said that you need to remember that one of the best players still isn't part of the roster technically yet in terms of playing time. He's still coming back from his injury, on track to come back in December. When that happens, we're really going to figure out how good this team can be. And it's going to take a while to work him back into the system. Big Sip in the house. Good to see you. They should give us the trophy now. No need for a tournament. Well, we are sporting potentially the Naismith Award winner, potentially the #1 overall draft pick, and potentially everything, at this point. It looks good, but I will... the Auburn fan in me knows something's going to go wrong at some point. So I just have to kind of sit back and say, let's hold on just a minute, just for a minute here. Don't rush to a conclusion just yet. Joe, one of our Booster Club members and channel members, thank you, sir, for your support. And Austin Scott, you guys have known Austin. He joined me all football season on Monday nights to discuss grades for the football team. Austin, if you want to call in, the link's in the group me for the E2C Network channel contributors if you would like to call in. So you feel free to sit back and relax this time, or you can call in if you like. Plainsman Murph, another Booster channel member. I got to get you guys like completely straight here tonight. I'm struggling on that. Weagle, are we discussing Coach Bruce Pearl's abs? I mean, we can. Last time I remember, he didn't really have abs. It was like a keg. If you really want to, it's kind of similar to what I have. That's below the camera right now. No need to show that. It's quite embarrassing for me, but we won't really harp on that too much. I guess if that's the discussion point that you want to talk about, we can. Dusty, another one of our Booster Club members and channel members. Once you realize how good we are, we'll create a new... They need much less excuses to do things like that, Dusty. Yes, I don't think anything's going to take anything away from this team and how good it is, though. It's just really lots of talent across the board, and it's kind of like I think it was Russell who said it earlier. Even the walk-ons are good. I mean, you look at when Cardwell comes in, making sure my microphone thing's sitting good here. It's wobbling on me right now. When Cardwell comes in, when the backups come in, you think there's gonna be a little bit of a drop off, and there's different skill sets. There's different things that they do well or don't do well, but there really isn't that much of a drop off. Cardwell, when he comes in at the center position or the forward position, he brings the energy and brings that level of play up in a different way. Same for the walk-ons, or same thing for Laura Behrman, who is a former walk-on and is trying. I think he's a scholarship player now. Maybe not. Thought he was. When he comes in, he's making the best of his time and knocking down threes. This team is just really good across the board. Really, really good. What are the chances Brian Harsin supports the basketball team by hanging out shirtless in the student section when we play the big game? Well, remember, I don't know if you watched the press conferences this year. He was asked this question after Bruce did that for him. He very much brushed that off and did not even entertain that. So Brian, I don't think, is interested in supporting those teams that way. However, he does come to games and he does show up there and show his support and things like that. Bruce is just an interesting guy, and I mean that in the best possible sense. He is unique. He understands that he has to work because of things he's been through. He has to work even harder to maintain the success of this program. And so he is all about unity. He is all about supporting every aspect of being Auburn. He is the statesman of the Auburn athletic programs and the leaders of which, out of all of them. I mean, he's obviously now the biggest name on campus, the biggest, arguably other than Coach Cal, probably the biggest name in SEC basketball. But he works hard at it. It's not just you show out there and my name is Bruce Pearl. He works hard at being that successful and promoting this program. Yes, Big Simp, I was going to bring that up. We can discuss a little bit. The Turds did beat Gonzaga. The SEC is going to be a force in the tournament. I was sad to see that they got that the same day as their SEC championship in football. Every turd has its day, right? So look, from what I understand, and I'm not just trying to be sour grapes here, the Gonzaga team, while having Chet Holmgren, I believe his name is, are with Jabari and the guy named Pablo, the three that are being considered for, the best player in college basketball this year. They don't seem as well-rounded as a team. Not taking anything away from the win. It's still Gonzaga. They're still considered one of the best in basketball, but it's not like they beat last year's Gonzaga. And to their credit, this wasn't last year's team's Alabama team. So they're probably different in some areas, maybe worse in some areas. Here's what I do know. The state of basketball for the state of Alabama is very good. You got Auburn and Alabama, both with 7-1 in the year. Alabama has a bad loss. Auburn does not. Both are beating good teams, though, for the most part. I think UAB is even doing well as too. So to me, I have talked about this a lot, the need for an in-state basketball tournament. And not even a tournament, just a showcase where you get Auburn, Alabama, UAB, Jacksonville State, South Alabama, Troy, and anyone else you want to show up. And you have, your upper tier with Auburn, Alabama, UAB, and probably South Alabama. Because South Alabama actually has a pretty decent basketball program, like competitive wise. Not saying they're going to win an SEC title or a national title, but they're formidable enough that you need to take them seriously, where you could do that and then play some of the lower tier teams and you play one of the big ones, two of the small ones. I don't know, just throwing stuff out there. I would love to see that in the BJCC, and then it goes up and down the state each year. You do one in Huntsville, one in Birmingham, one in Montgomery, one in Mobile. Thinking too much, but that'd be good stuff right there. Let's see. Austin says, nothing to get me too worked up about this week in Auburn athletics, I think. If they only knew, Austin, right? If they only knew. There's plenty to get you all worked up. Let's see. Give Jabari the Heisman. If he continues to play as well as he is, he can win all the awards. He can win every sport award there is. Although I would probably put Sinisa Lee in that category as well, because that's how dominant she is. I mean, if you go to the Olympics before you even get to college and win several gold medals, you can pretty much win anything. Coach Bruce Pearl is the greatest thing to happen to Auburn basketball in its history. I would say Charles Barkley probably still holds that cake right now. For now, Bruce is working his way up there. Austin, I don't even know why I forgot about that. That's a great point. Stanford's doing well too. E2C sponsoring this state. Well, you got to have lots of money to do that, and that is one thing we are not rolling in. So I would love to have my name attached to something like that, because I think it'd be wonderful. Listen, even if it was, excuse me, a preseason tournament, right? Or a preseason event where it doesn't really count, I would love that. Make that your exhibition thing, where Auburn and Alabama or Auburn and UAB play each other, and then maybe another one of the smaller teams or something like that. Let's see here. We got a lot of people checking in. As you come in, make sure you smash that like button. We're going to talk in detail here about some of the games from the week, where we think we're going forward in just a second. Just trying to catch up on all of your comments and questions. That brought up the memory of USA beating the Turds in the NCAA tournament years ago. If you remember, they also nearly beat us, if not for one Isaac Okoro last year. He had, was it 2 years ago? It may have been 2 years ago. Falling back, drained the shot as he was falling away, and it was nearly a big upset for South Alabama. Unbeaten Lake says Florida lost to 0-7 Texas Southern by 15. Well, the record doesn't look great, but Texas Southern has had pretty good history of basketball. So if they want to spin that, they can. But 0-7 kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? Corey, good to see you. Another one of our Booster Club members. Thank you for being here, sir. We appreciate it. Let's see. Sir Charles did not get us to the Final Four, sir. I love him above all other former players, but Coach Pearl transformed Auburn basketball. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Clint, I felt like Clint was in here. Oh, why is Clint's thing being held for review? I just saw that, Clint. Clint made a comment earlier just saying hello, and it got held for some reason, and now it's I approved it, so I don't know why it did that to you, buddy. But anyway, back to Gardner's comment here. I see your point about the Final Four. I hear it. I think what the all-encompassing of what Charles has done and is doing for the program, for Auburn, still kind of puts him a little bit ahead, Bruce, as of this moment. Now, if Bruce goes to another Final Four, we've got a conversation right there. It's a fair debate to have, though. And listen, it's a good problem to have. You know, anybody else would kill to have Charles Barkley and, you know, Bruce Pearl as some of your best representatives of your basketball program. Devin, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. War Eagle, this team's fun to watch. I tell all my fellow Auburn fans to make sure they watch a game or two. Maybe watching every game you can. If you've got the capability, if it's on actual cable and not your paid cable, the ESPN pluses and stuff like that. Although most people have those things these days, so it's really hard to miss. And listen, if you can't watch it, there's still something to be said about listening to the good old radio. Coach Sonny Smith, who is one of my favorite Auburn coaches of all time. I've interviewed him on Let Him Tell His Auburn Story on our podcast called Auburn Roots. Go check that out if you haven't. He is just a hoot. He loves giving the refs the business, and just, you know, with the late Rod Bramblett, him trying to keep Sonny in check, and now Andy has that job, who I've interviewed as well. That's it's really weird. It's a weird job to have. Yes, Clint is a troublemaker, and that's what you get for trying to spam Clint. But I don't know why. Of all people, you think it wouldn't clink you for that. YouTube knows Clint is a troublemaker with the War Dustbuster. That's for dang sure. Kevin says that we've got a Final Four team this season. It's a fun game. It's a fun every game, and War Eagle. Thank you, sir. All right, we're about caught up here, and then we'll get into some discussion about the games. My first season paying attention to basketball, couldn't have picked a better time. Well, what were you doing the other seasons? Look, these past 6-7 years with Coach Pearl have been fun from day one. First year was a little frustrating, but Clint and I covered that when we were doing the Inside the Jungle podcast when we were the co-host. Now that's Chris and Gray Oldenburg, and we still remember talking about KT Harrell draining that three in the SEC tournament to upset LSU. What a time that was. Unbeaten Lake says in 5 to 10 years, Jabari will probably be a great representation of Auburn basketball. And listen, that's actually, I'm loving this conversation right now, because I think it's a great potential, like when we're having slow weeks in the offseason, to kind of everybody discuss together, and we'll do it maybe on a live stream. Who are your best representatives of the Auburn program? You don't just have to have a Final Four to be, the best representative of Auburn basketball. I'd say KT Harrell is in that category for the way he got us through the transition. I'd say, you could make a case for like a Frankie Sullivan. You could make a case for the Persons. You can make a case for Jared Harper. So that's a conversation we need to have another time. He tried to post a uniform alteration. Yeah, that's probably why he got spammed. Sonny Smith is a treasure. I always listen on the radio and mute the announcers. It's probably not a bad decision choice on your part, Linda. Thanks for calling. Linda's one of our Booster Club members too, so thank you. Speaking of which, before we get into the discussion of this week's games, let me remind you guys of a couple ways you can help support our content. One of those being you can join the E2C Network Booster Club. You can go over there to I just realized that I got to pull this thing down so you guys can see the banner. Still learning all these little tools and nuances, because it's a new system that we have on here. But go to patreon.com/E2C Network. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month and help support the content we do here. Or you can just be a channel member here. There's a join button that you can find, usually easier to find on your phone than it is, on the desktop than it is a phone. You can help support what we do here. This is my good friend, Mr. Blake Foxworth, or I guess I will embarrass you a little bit, buddy, and call you Peanut. How do you feel about Flanagan coming back? I love the fact that Alan Flanagan is coming back. To me, he's been another linchpin in this program over the past couple of years. But what I also recognize is when you get momentum going as a team and a program, when you insert someone back into the lineup that hasn't been there, it's going to cause friction in good and bad ways. And they're going to have to figure out how best to insert him and not step on toes, hurt feelings, but also, with how the team has been successful. So there's going to be probably some losses and stuff that happen because of this while you're trying to figure things out. So it's a great question, Blake. It's just, I'm excited for his return, but it's hard to feel like it can get any better than this. But it can. It absolutely can. Let's see. Kevin, Allen to play in December. Yes, he's on track to come back in December. Cliff Ellis is a good one. He's a great ambassador as well. I think he's still coaching at Coastal Carolina, or did he retire? Austin, you would know that. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Harper is our professional b-ball team, is on our professional basketball team here. 5,000 plus showed up to watch him play. I saw the highlights, Big Simp. Yeah, he's one of those guys that, because he's a little bit of the unconventional player, being so small and stuff like that, but he's so good that he wins a lot of the hearts of a lot of people. It's hard not to root for a Jared Harper, because he's good at the game and he's kind of got that story behind him. Overlooked, overshadowed, still successful. I do remember the Cliff Dwellers. I didn't get to be a part of them as a student, but because we were finishing up the Lebo era, which I think Lebo personally gets a lot of crap that he shouldn't get. That's just me. He, for me, had a period there where he kind of seemed like he was turning in the right direction, and then it just came apart again. And then Barbie. I try not to talk bad about former coaches and players, but that's one of them. It's really easy to, right? Flanagan's going to take a few games to get back in the rhythm, so no need to panic, but they'll get it working. Going to take humility from everyone to get the best possible team they can be. You're already seeing it, right? Wendell Green is not even starting, but he's going out there and taking care of business. He's not even the starting point guard anymore as of this moment, because Bruce is putting in who best makes this team be successful. Corey, well, I hope that we can teach you a little bit about it. We're not going to be super technical in stats and stuff like that. But I love to talk about basketball. It is my game. It is the thing that I still play to this day. It's a very cerebral game, so I will try to educate you to the best of my ability in layman's terms. Still at Coastal. Okay, thank you for confirming that. Oh, I gotta see that, Linda. So I know I need to respond to you again. We were trying to help you a little bit with the Booster Club, the Patreon app thing, because you guys in the Booster Club can send me messages and stuff too, and send like posts to each other and stuff. If you can figure it out, I want you to share a picture of that Cliff Dweller shirt with me. I need to see that. I need to see it. I wanted Lebo to be successful too. The Lebo Lunatics. That's what I was a part of. But yeah. Lebo was fired for Barbie. Austin, you're not supposed to be causing trouble tonight. You're not even here. You can call in if you want to call. If you want to cause trouble, you need to call in. Let's see here. All right, I think we might have to skip over a couple here, but I do want to talk about this week's game. And a great opening conversation here. Auburn gets 2 wins on the week, one over UCF and one over Yale. And listen, let me just go ahead and get this out. Everybody get your Malzahn jokes out now. Go ahead and get them out of your system. It has nothing to do with Malzahn, but if you need to make them, go ahead and make them. But UCF has been a decent program over the last couple of years. Everybody remember Taco Fall, all 7'7" of him, I think is what he was. We went down to UCF 2 seasons ago, maybe a season ago or 2 seasons ago, and got a loss handed to us surprisingly. And then they had a pretty decent tournament run recently. So this is not a team that you need to take, or a program, not necessarily a team, because teams change year to year, that you need to take lightly. They are building a lot of momentum with their program. And you saw that in the performance against Auburn this past Wednesday, I believe it was. They came out and pressed Auburn real hard, and they were very successful at it for a time. So you really need to know that Auburn, while very talented, and sometimes the talent is good enough to overcome any obstacles, there's still some areas where they can improve. And that was one of the areas during that game, because UCF did press us really well and very hard early. And it caused some problems for the Tigers. Auburn did get the win 85-68. And I think this is another one of those games where Auburn pulls away at the end and makes it look more under control than it was at times. Like I said, the opening half was a little bit, I won't call it worrisome for Auburn fans, but I will call it intriguing. I think a lot of people thought, since it was in the arena amongst the jungle, that we were just going to walk away with this one. And we did eventually, but not in a fashion that people were expecting in the first half, because it was 36-39 going to halftime. UCF was shooting well. They were playing great defense, pressing well, and it really put up a challenge. And I think we've reached a point in our program where people don't panic. Most people, especially those that are well educated in basketball, they understand that those things happen, and it's only going to make you better to kind of experience those challenges early. It's one of the great things that Bruce Pearl does in his scheduling. He schedules good teams from lower conferences that you don't necessarily think of as being good, like the previous champions of the last year or expected to be champions. Coach Pearl, on every schedule, he has maybe 1, 2, or 3 out of the I think it's 10 or 12 non-conference games where it's easy to win. No, Malzahn's not coaching basketball now, but I knew the jokes were coming, so I tried to head him off at the pass there. Taco Fall is 1 inch taller than Yao Ming. He's 7'6". Can someone confirm that? Because I feel like I'm just saying he's 7'7", but I'm not sure. Yeah, if that's the case, he is 1 inch taller than that. But believe it or not, he's still not the tallest basketball player there ever has been. I think Monte Bowl, I think he was 7'8". It seems to be there's this point where you're too tall and if you don't have enough body mass. Like Yao Ming was just enough, and he had a lot of, like, I think body or health issues because of how unproportional he was with his height. So there's kind of this fine line where you're too tall sometimes and can be long-term successful with joints and things like that. Let's see here. Just to get into the basketball talk, does it seem that we're not transitioning back to the defense as fast as we did in the past? Looking forward to faster breaks with throwouts to the perimeter for three. We're not transitioning back to defense as fast as we did in the past. Well, a couple of reasons you can think, and you may have a point, Plainsman Murph. We're a much bigger team. Jabari Smith is 6'9", right? 6'10". Walker Kessler's up there as well. We are overall, the guards are bigger. We have transitioned during Bruce's time of the tallest player we had was 6'7", to the shortest guard have now is 6'1", and Jared Harper was like 5'10" or something like that. So we're playing bigger. So, the athleticism style has changed over time. So yeah, you could see in that. You're also playing a lineup right now that is a little short on guards without Alan Flanagan there. So speed's not necessarily an issue, but it is something that's maybe less than it would be without somebody else in the rotation or in the mix and things like that. So, and if you're seeing that, I'm sure Coach Pearl is also seeing that as working on them to help combat that, because there's ways that you can play against that and ways that you can not make that exposed area be as big of a problem for you. Dusty was impressed with UCF. I don't know much about their coach, but they were coached well, so that speaks for itself, right? I'm still major that a mid-major coach can come to UA and start out coaching, out recruiting some of the top teams in the country. Speaking of Alabama, Alabama has the money. Do with that what you will, that comment, legal or illegal. NIL makes things so unpredictable now that it's kind of hard to even, can you really prove they're cheating at this point? Now, listen, I had somebody tell me a long time ago that in all the sports, every team is cheating, every program is cheating. It's just a question to what degree and how well are they hiding it. It's all about how far can we bend the rules before we get in trouble. And I'm not naive to think that Auburn's not capable of that. But it is a little odd, right? Alabama has had a pretty good program over the years. So I'm going to give them that. And they had a foundation that was much higher built at the time than Auburn did when Bruce Pearl came in. So their falls usually aren't as bad as the Auburn one was when we went from Lebo kind of getting it started and falling back on his face, and then Barbie just, and that Bruce Pearl had to figure that mess out. And he did. I think he gets better as the team builds trust among players and our assists begin to grow. Those throw-out assists is what made us so dangerous in our Final Four run. And you're seeing the ball being distributed very well with this team as well. One of the things that's most impressive about Jabari is his basketball IQ, meaning that along with that IQ has to come a controlled humility, because you don't want to be so humble that you don't take advantage of the talent that you have. You see him doing that, coming down there and shooting threes and making them. But you also see that in understanding that he needs to be a good passer as well, even at his height. So I think you're seeing not just the guards dishing out the ball, you're seeing everybody sharing the ball. So with that, there comes sometimes people are more prone to turnovers than other, and it's not as successful. I'm kind of talking in circles right now at this point. I think it's an area of interest to really watch and see if it gets better, though. Maybe I'm biased, but it looks to me that the refs are looking to call it technical on Jabari now. Your eyes are orange, but it's okay. No. When you have a player that good on the floor, I can only imagine how difficult it is for a ref to not just, you don't never assume that a player is going to foul someone, but when they're far and away, it's like, there's no way they can be that much better. So sometimes you see them kind of watching them more, looking for ways to give them more scrutiny and things like that. Bo was 7'1", or 7-7. ESPN has Taco at 6-7. I will tell you this for a fact, as a former 1-year college basketball player. Well, I can only speak for the team that I was a part of. We pad stats to hide some discrepancies. I was 6'1", 195 pounds. I was about 30 to 40 pounds light of that and 1 inch short of that. So you can do with that what you will. Do you think we lose Coach Pearl's son as an assistant over the next few years if we're successful? Yeah. And honestly, it's kind of the same conversation as the, one and done conversation. You kind of want those things to happen in the right amount of time. Honestly, I'm shocked he hasn't wanted to investigate that more over these past few years. I think he's more than earned a shot at a mid-major program, but I think that also shows you how much he enjoys being here, working with his dad, and I think he will get a shot someday. But if we continue to be successful, if the areas that he is, are his responsibility continue to be successful, he will get calls. The question is, does he want them? He may be perfectly content working with his dad for the rest of his life. I like that combo, but I'd almost be disappointed for him if he didn't seek something else. Bruce Pearl is a great coach and a great recruiter of talent, not just in players. So if that happens, I'm sure we'll find the right fit. Bama had a paper trail for 3 states for a Dodge Charger back in 2009. I'm in favor of Stephen Pearl or Flanagan taking over the program after Bruce Pearl retires in about 10 to 15 years. Hey, if they can pull it off, I think Bruce would make a great AD someday in the distance. Dusty loves watching Jabari in the half-court offense. Nice to see a young kid use the mid-range. It still exists, and it is a very lost talent. I speak for myself on that. I'm trying to be better about that when I play in, just at courts and stuff like that these days. I am a good 3-point shooter, but I'm trying to work on my mid-range game, and it's a lost art these days. Let's see. Plainsman says, running the ball down the court and pushing the defense has been Coach Pearl's MO. With our bigger size, I don't want to lose the ability to be nimble with getting the ball down the court. And I get that. That's been fun to watch over the past couple of years. But just because something was successful previously doesn't mean that needs to be the successful thing now. Whatever is the best fit for your program, the makeup of your roster now is what you need to use. And you've seen Pearl do that. You saw Coach Pearl, mainly by necessity, use a center as a point guard. Does anybody remember Simeon Bowers, or Sinindrum, as I call him? I love the guy. Glad he's been part of our program. He ran point guard for about 2 games when we ran out of guards. And he's willing to do whatever it takes to win. Austin, stop stirring up trouble. I think Austin's more deadly when he is not on the show. By the way, we're about halfway, maybe a little over halfway through the show here. For those of you that are Booster Club members and E2C Network contributors, you can call in if you like. No pressure. It can be audio or visual, either which one. But take advantage of that. I've sent out the link to you guys if you'd like to call in and talk about that. Yeah, it was the Pat Dye coach 80 combo worked to some degree. Allegations and all that stuff, but it's worked before. We'll see if it happens again. All right, so UCF 80, UCF 68, Auburn 85. They get the win over the Golden Knights, and people vicariously took that as a win over Coach Malzahn for some reason. Kessler gets his big night: 17 points, 14 rebounds, double, only to be outdone by Jabari Smith. 20 points and 7 rebounds, close to a double-double for him. Katie Johnson has another great night with 11 points. And then a lot of people that saw significant time, everybody scored. Laura Behrman with 6 points and 2 3-pointers that he made. Just absolutely great. What I like seeing in here is there's not really any serious foul trouble outside of Cardwell. He comes in there high energy. You can see why he kind of does that. That's a really encouraging sign that a lot of your even in stressful situations, which UCF gave, that Auburn, the starters especially, are keeping themselves in their foul issues in moderate check for the most part. Situationally, sometimes when it happens earlier on, you kind of sit people early to not affect that. But I will say, noticing kind of I'm looking over here on my screen, the minutes played, Wendell's time continues to slip lower and lower. I love Wendell Green. I don't want to see that, but obviously the team is successful with him in this role. So I guess that's what's got to happen. But I love the dude. I think he's a great combo of Jared Harper and Sharif Cooper all in one in their styles of play. So I'd love to see him continue to see increased playing time. Let's take a look at Yale, Auburn. I got to give credit to our Inside the Jungle crew, the podcast for us on the network covering Auburn basketball. They talked a lot about this in the show, saying that, there's specific people that are big names in the basketball spectrum. You got Rothstein, I think is his name. He was discussing that this was not a trap game for Auburn, but that it was potentially a danger game for them. And I would say that, yes, the Ivy League teams, especially the ones that are the previous champions or are about to be the current champions, usually are pretty good. But I wasn't so sure about the statements that Auburn was going to get potentially upset, especially at home in Auburn Arena. But they are supposedly a great team, and Auburn handles them 64-86. And there were some moments where it seemed like Yale was going to be able to compete for a little while with Auburn. But if you look at the halftime score, it was 47-30 Auburn. And then, by the end of it, 86-64. So Auburn handled them pretty much the entire way on the night. Let me catch up on a couple of comments here. Wes is in the house. Good to see you, Wes. Thanks for being here. Plays of Mirth. The first few SEC games will be interesting. Looking forward to a great season. Yes, it will. SEC looks challenging, and it is only going to get tougher for the Tigers. Big Simp brings up a point I want to bring up about the Yale game. We already talked about Kessler being the rim protector against UCF. Walker Kessler in this game gets a little bit of an injury. And according to Coach Pearl, is going to not see a lot of time this week and maybe sit out a couple of games. So that's going to be your first kind of major injury of the season. I don't take it as a major injury, but I also hope that he can kind of get this fixed up right, because we had something really good flowing there, and I want him to be healthy. I want our entire team to be healthy by the time that Alan Flanagan is back. So we're not doing this whole, well, we figure out how to work with Alan Flanagan, and now we got to insert Kessler back into the lineup and figure out how that dynamic happens. That's what's going to be key to this, is knowing how to be successful when we have everybody and not trying to figure that out in more important time like SEC play. Plainsman Murph, thanks for being here. Appreciate your support as well, sir. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit. Happy to see Stretch come out and play well after he had not seen really any playing time since the first game. Yeah, I love saying Babatunde Akingbola, I believe is the pronunciation for it. I love saying his full name. But Stretch is, to me, he's one of those guys that doesn't know how to control his body that well. He doesn't also get the opportunities to work through that as much. I love seeing him out there, and whenever I celebrate every time he gets an opportunity to have a good game here. And so you'll get to see him play more now, because what's going to happen is I'm sure you'll slide either Wendell Green into the starting lineup, or you'll slide probably Jalen Williams maybe into the starting line. And he's very much disturbing of that. Is probably what's really going to happen to start off with. And then that means that Cardwell is going to come in sooner. That means that Babatunde is going to probably get a little bit more time to play off. And so we'll really get to see if he's worked through some of those things, those kind of excitable tendencies had where he doesn't finish things as well. You got to finish at the rim if you're a big man. It is a necessity for that. Small piece of breaking news from Mr. Austin. Alan Flanagan's returned to practice as of today. See, I thought he had actually already returned to doing some things, but I guess full practice today. But don't everybody read into that and think that means that he is about to start it or he's about to play again. He might. I mean, I don't know. But mid-December was the timeline when you looked at the type of surgery they have. When we did a video back in the summer. But even when he does come in, don't anticipate him being himself right away. Don't anticipate him spending a ton of time. Need to ease him back in for himself and the team. And Nebraska is a guy that wears glasses on the court. It's an interesting fact. Don't know what it has to do. I'm just kidding. I'm beating Lake. Hey, sometimes those guys with those goggles, you got to watch out for them. They could be killers on the court. That's our next game coming up. We have a longer layoff than normal. This happens every single season. They get into the bulk of their non-conference play. Finals week comes up, and then it's the holidays. And so there's this like weird scheduling part in the middle of all this next 2-3 week, almost 4 weeks of December, where you don't get on a real schedule until SEC play starts. And that starts at the very end of December this year, which is really odd for me. So that's the next game coming up in the Hoops Giving, I think is what it's called, Classic here in Atlanta, Georgia. Not going as of yet, if there are still tickets available, but you never know. Maybe I'll send you some live stuff from there if I end up being able to go. We'll see what happens. All right, we're going to start getting towards the end of our show now, but I'm not going just yet. I want to hear from you, comments, questions, things that stuck out to you. Who's your player? I know Jabari is obviously the easy choice in there, but who's been your player this past couple of weeks that's really stuck out to you? You got a lot of options here that you could make a case for. But dropping into those right now, a couple reminders. Make sure that you are checking out some of the links in the description, ways that you can help support our content, whether that being a Booster Club member or just being a channel member here. We appreciate each of you that already do that. We've called out a lot of you already, and if we missed you, I'm sorry, but we'll do our best to catch you the next time. Even if you're watching on the replay, we appreciate your support. We appreciate everybody for being here and smashing that like button if you enjoy this type of content. And there's some other ways that you can help support our content, keep it coming out every single, because we're mainly listener, viewer supported right now. Podcast coming out this week. We had Inside the Jungle already come out today, breaking down this past Yale game. They'll go again this week with a interesting interview, not with a player or coach, but with someone connected very closely to them. You might want to stay tuned for that as well. And we should have a football podcast out later this week as well. Lots of content. We got content galore for you every single place. So I hope that that will meet your needs for what you need in terms of Auburn content for the week. Oh, and we will be going live this Wednesday. They're outside of basketball or outside of regular football season. The topic's kind of loose and free. We'll come in prepared with a topic to talk about, but really it's the call-in show. So if you come on 8:00 Central or Eastern time, on Wednesday nights, we'll talk about anything really with some prepared topics. So hope we can see you there. And stay tuned as well. This whole OC search and everything surrounded about it is getting a little bit interesting. And hopefully we'll have some news about that soon. We'll probably go live shortly after that news is breaking, whenever that is. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. Linda says, I like Katie Johnson. It's hard not to like Katie, isn't it? He's a great, great player. Devin agrees as well. I think the part of the thing is not just that he's being successful in the court, but the energy that he brings. He is the Sean Shivers of the basketball team. Sean would bring the energy, and he's just really, really good. Austin says he will be in Atlanta for the Nebraska game next week, hoping for a big home crowd. It's easy enough. It's kind of similar to the Birmingham Bowl, right? It's basically the same amount of distance. Auburn fans, be there, and don't let down the opportunity to have a home crowd there. It's nice to have a center taller than everyone else. From what we were dealing with early on in this program, yes, it is a much more easy thing to enjoy when you know that you've got some height on your team. You can overcome those issues, but boy, does it make it a lot easier when you've got a tall guy in the center. Just basically stand up there and like a tree, and it makes it difficult to pull off some of the basketball moves that college athletes are very good at doing when you've got to work around that wingspan. So whether it's Kessler, Jabari, Cardwell, Akingbola, Jalen Williams, we are very much blessed by some very talented athletes and abilities, and just their physical statures It's a great time to be an Auburn basketball fan. All right, thank you guys so much for being here on this show Monday nights. For now, we'll be going live on Monday nights to discuss each week in basketball. Stay tuned for next week with no game necessarily this week. We will kind of leave that open-ended, but just stay tuned and we'll see what news or anything else is breaking out there. But I'll hope to see you this Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, live call-in show. Everybody can call in. Anybody can do it. Hope that I'll see you there. Until then, though, War Eagle.